Hey everybody, it's Mr. G with another quick tutorial on Pivot. How to bring an object into Pivot. Let's say I want to take this hat, for example, and bring it into Pivot and put it on my character's head, but there are no hats, there's no cool looking hats. You can do this with anything. The trick is to find an image, clean up the image, which I've already done here. You're going to clean up the background so that you have a transparent background, okay? And then save that image. And the other thing that's really important is the size. Down here, you can see the size is 100 by 100. You do not want a giant image that is bigger than your actual animation. So I resized it, going image, resize, got it to be the right size, cleaned it up so it has a transparent background. Then I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to make sure to save this as a PNG. And I'm going to call this, for right now, I'm going to save it onto my desktop. You would save it in a folder so you can keep track of it. In my class, the students would save it into their H drive. But I'm going to save it, I'm going to call this hat, and I'm going to save it right onto my desktop, and I'm going to click Save. And I'm going to say OK to all the options that pop up. And now I'm going to go into Pivot. Now we're going to see if this works. This might not work, and if it doesn't, you'll be the first to know. So I've got my guy here. I want to give him a sweet hat to wear on his head, and I'm going to give him a different color here so I can see him better against that background. There we go, pink guy. And I'm going to go to File, Load Sprite Image. I think this is what I want to do. Desktop, there's the hat. You notice it shows up. I say open, boom, there's my hat. There's a few things you can do with the hat. One, you can see that it goes on top of his head. I can resize the hat so it's a better size. So I'm going to make it size 50 here so it looks like it belongs on his head. Oh yeah, that's nice. And you'll see that it has a dot and it has a handle. So it gives you not a whole lot of options, but it does give you some options. If I want the hat to be in front, I leave it like that. If I want it to be behind him, I could click on this button to lower it so it's behind his head. Maybe he's holding it in his hand and he's picking it up, and I want him to carry it. That's outside of the scope of our animation. Now I want to show you some problems you might have. So that's the basics, okay? So right now, if you understood that, just go ahead and stop the tutorial and go out there and grab a bunch of images and bring them in. Here's some things that'll go wrong, okay? One of the things that can go wrong is that if you drag the picture in right away and you save it. Oh, I got it. File, Save As. And you're going to call this, this is a PNG, we'll call this, now you have to name everything a different name in Pivot. It doesn't like you having multiple objects with the same name. So I'm going to call this hat 2 just to be safe. I'm going to save that to the desktop, save it, boom, say OK. All right, now the problem here that you're about to see, well, let's just open Pivot and see what happens. I'm going to go File, Load, do you remember what it was? Load Sprite, good job. I'm going to go to Load Sprite. There's hat 2. I'm going to open it. Now, you see the orange dot, but you don't see anything. Well, the orange dot, it always takes the orange dot and sticks it there. And, oh, there's my hat. It's really big. I could change the size, and I could still work with this. Okay, it's not perfect, but it'll work. I'm going to make this like 5. Let's see what that is. Okay, wow, that's what took a little extra effort there. That's one of the problems that you can have. I'm going to come back to this picture. The reason was because look at my picture image size. It's 1120 by 1120. So first you got to make sure you resize it so it's a reasonable size. So if your project is 700 by 600 and you have an image that's bigger than that, it's going to take up more space. Now I don't know if you noticed this. I want to point something out to you. That I'm going to do something else to this picture now. Okay, I'm going to move this. I'm going to shrink it. Let's say this is your picture like this. You've just finished editing the picture and you have lots of extra space around your image. And by the way, you need to see this checkerboard. If you don't see this checkerboard, you're going to have a problem with your image. I'll just show you here. Okay, let's just say you left the background in there. Okay, well, let's make it a different color. Green. Okay, let's say we left that background. File, Save As. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I'm going to call this hat 3. We're going to save it as a PNG. Good job. And we're going to save that and say OK. Flatten. You probably already noticed one of the problems. I didn't resize it, but we'll get to that. Load Sprite Image. Hat 3. Okay, there's our hat. Okay, it's ginormous. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a lot of space between the dot and the top. Well, here's why that happens. I want you to imagine that there is a square going from the first dot in the bottom left-hand corner of the picture to the other corner. Now you'll see that it actually deleted the green. It actually knows, hey, I need to get rid of that background color, but the best way is to make that transparent. Well, here's the problems we had with this image. One, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that background. Two, we had all of this extra space. So that's where this comes in handy. You use the selection tool, the rectangle, and you drag a rectangle around your image, okay? And you crop. And again, we've got to resize this. So we're going to resize this image so it's much smaller. 100 by 75, that's much better. Okay, now that is going to come out a lot better. And it's going to put a dot right here. The orange dot's going to be in the bottom left-hand corner, and the red dot is going to be in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you have lots of extra space, you're going to have all kinds of problems. To avoid the problems, you're going to save it. You're going to clean it up so that you have the part that you want. And then you're going to resize it and save it as a PNG or JPEG. In this case, you want to save it as a PNG because PNGs allow transparency. You know what? I'm sure that there's like all kinds of little things you can do with Pivot that I don't even understand. So if you've got other great things, post a comment, let us know. But anyway, here's how you add objects. And this could be a head, someone else's face, you know, anything you can think of, you can throw in to Pivot. It makes it a lot of fun to add other objects into your animation. Have fun pivoting. This is Mr. G out. I should do like a